Welcome to the Sober Unicorn. We are a gay hosted, all-inclusive podcast about sobriety and addiction recovery for the LGBT plus community and all of our allies. I am your host Holden, and thank you for joining us today. Hey everybody, it's Holden here at the Sober Unicorn, back at it again. I hope everybody's doing absolutely fabulous and staying sober, and if you're not, well, welcome to the podcast. So today I have a very special guest. Funny enough, this person and I knew each other when I think we were like 15, 16-ish, around that age when we first met through a mutual friend. Over the course, the years, we lost contact. We found contact again while we were both admitted to a hospital, lost contact again, and then here we are today, both sober and both enjoying our best life possible. So, well, hello, everybody. Welcome, Angel. How are you, Angel?
Hello. I'm doing amazing and sober.
Good. Well, I'm so happy to, of course, be in touch with you for one, and two, to kind of
Yes.
get you on here and share your journey of recovery.
Yes.
So,
All right.
why don't you tell everybody kind of like where are you from, how old are you, and what your drug of choice was?
All right. So I am 31 years old. I come from San Antonio, Texas. Moved to a small town right outside San Antonio, which is Floresville. So I grew up, that's been home, well, before I went into recovery, for about 10 years. So, uh,
Floresville
yes.
is a very podunk town. So I mean, if anybody is that's listening is from there, sorry that I said that, but it's the truth. And I think that's where my sister actually is in Floresville as well. So um so going into like recovery, like how was your life pre pre recovery, pre getting sober?
So my life was chaotic. It was a hot mess. Um, I didn't even know what I was doing half the time in my life during my addiction. Um, so with my drug of choice of being cocaine and alcohol, um, and this when I was about 30, I had started doing methamphetamines for a little bit. So it I wasn't gonna try it, but I had actually got a bad batch and it was laced, and it was addicting from that point on. So I just was like, man, like I would always buy both of them and mix them together. So for that 1 year, like I lost so much weight. Um, I went through a bad marriage. Um, I have a kid. Um, and so it basically like it was just one relationship to the next, and I when I got married, I tried to be faithful. Unfortunately, that didn't work out with my husband. um and I say husband still because we're still married. um
I mean, I
but
know that's a hot mess.
yes, that's a hot mess. And so basically, like, I'm just like, um i I use the drinking as an antidepressant, um because he would always be he was also in active addiction, and I can't tell you now if he is or not. But for the most part, like I think that he still is. But I had just started off with alcohol for the longest time of my for most of my life, and my addiction started back when I was about 12 years old. Um, with the drinking, the lying, the stealing, uh, and just manipulating people for that. Um,
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's
with
kind of crazy that we, like, as you said, you used alcohol as an antidepressant when in all actuality, alcohol is a depressant. And so we're
Yes,
trying to mask a depressive or a bad mood with something that is going to depress us even more. And I think that's why a lot of people, when drinking, become a hot, emotional, crying, blubbering mess or just throwing themselves onto people. Um, and everything. And so it's crazy that we tend to do that to ourselves.
Yes. So I just think that, well, back then in my eyes, I felt like it was working. And also, I was born addicted to alcohol and drugs as well. And the doctors would always tell me whenever I go into for an annual checkup or annual doctor's visit, they would always tell me, they would always remind me, like, don't drink, like you were born addicted. And to me, I was like, screw you, like you don't even know me, like you don't know my life, like, so you're not going to tell me something just because I was born that means I'm going to be addicted to it, because I was already in that mindset. At that time, I didn't know it was addict behavior, but once I came into the recovery life, I found out it was addict behavior, and I was showing it before then because it was all about me. And uh, you know, if I didn't get my way, then I was gonna find a way to get it.
Yeah, most definitely. So what was the final straw that you went through that was like, holy shit, I need to get sober?
To be honest, the final straw was back in 2020. Uh, when I had a car wreck. Um, I was with one of my good friends from the South Side and of San Antonio, and we were going out, and her brother actually told us, "Don't leave," because we had been over there at his house all day partying, and he was all like, "Y'all don't need to be driving and this and that, but I can't keep y'all here. So if y'all want to leave, then that's on y'all." Um, so I kind of, um, with my health issues too, I'm diabetic, and we were drinking pure liquor straight, trying to keep up with his friends, because the guys were like, "Oh, you can't hang," and we're like, "Okay, like we'll show you," you
Yeah.
know, like basically it's a competition. Like you just put me up to a challenge. I'm like, you don't even know who I am. Like I could go all night and still drive home an hour from wherever I'm at. So uh, that day, I ended up hitting a parked car by her house, uh, and I was like, and I backed up, and my car was messed up, but I was just trying to get away from it in front of that house. And then the neighbors came out, and they're like, they have a spotlight out there pointing on my car for the neighbor, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So then the car that I hit, they come running over there, and I take off in my car. I was already so drunk that I didn't realize that my car was like so messed up I wasn't going to be able to drive it, because the axle broke. And
Oh damn.
so, yeah. So I started driving it, and it broke down underneath the bridge, underneath the highway, uh, with oncoming traffic. So I didn't know what to do. My adrenaline was running. So I just left the car and I took off running. There was a gas station. Um, and next thing I know, I had the whole city of San Antonio Police Department on the south side surrounding me at the gas station in my friend's car, because I tried to run and get in her car, and they were searching my car over there, and I was found in possession of drugs, and so they ended up taking me to jail that night. And when I was sitting in jail, my sugar, they checked my sugar, and it was almost 600, and they rushed me to the hospital, and they admitted me into ICU. And they said, uh, they were like, "Well, you're in a diabetic coma, this and that. Your sugars are super high." And then I had all these drugs in my system. So then I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" So that didn't really stop me at that point. But once I had my first court date and was indicted on a felony charge, uh, they were telling me that with my charge, it was going to be 5 to 99 years if I didn't stop what I was doing and go to rehab. And so when I went, I said, okay, like, I know I can't do prison. I can barely do county. So I said, look, I'm going to go to rehab. I'm going to go to rehab. I'll go to outpatient. I'll catch as many 12-step program meetings that I can. for the first 90 days because they recommend 90 meetings in 90 days. I was doing 3 meetings a day in the 90 days just to keep my recovery because it was so hard when I got out. Because I was like, I want to go drink, I want to go have a drug, like, but I made that commitment to myself, like I was never gonna do pickup again. If God got me off this hook, and with my higher power, and so I was just like, okay, like I have to keep my commitment, and luckily now I'm just gonna be on 9 months of deferred probation, and then everything's dropped, and it won't ever be on my record.
I mean, that's incredible that you're able to go from possession to it being wiped clean off your record as long as you stay sober and stay in good graces with the law. Um,
Yes.
but it's insane that you hit a parked car because one of my previous guests, Keith, he hit a fucking fire truck. What is it
Oh,
about people that's drinking that hit parked vehicles?
I don't know. I guess you think they're moving, and I mean, really, I thought the car was like moving, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, and I never heard the end of it from my family too. So I was just like, I was just like, I mean, and I've had family issues before, but at this time, like, it was serious enough to then be like, either you change your ways or you're not going to be able to come around.
For sure. So this time, I mean, of course, you said this was 2020 that this happened. So did you stay sober from going to rehab?
Yeah. So I went to rehab uh, this year of 2022 because it took 2 years for them to indict me. Almost a little, a year and a half to indict me because they had to release me to the hospital because of the diabetic coma, and I had to wait for the warrant to come back for them to come back and arrest me. And I was arrested at my job, so that was embarrassing because that's where they found me. I didn't even know I had a warrant because I had been doing what they had told me to do, call and check, and it just happened that one day that they issued the warrant the same day, and they came and picked me up at my job,
Yeah,
and
which is
and,
good that
and
you were able to stay sober from rehab just because many people, especially being forced into rehab from court systems and stuff, a lot of people from what I've heard and stories that people have shared in any room that I go into, that when it's forced upon you, it doesn't normally stick until it's a decision on your own.
yes, and so that's what I was scared about too because I was like, I wasn't ready to stop, even before with all the charges pending, you know what I mean. But there's this quote uh that sticks to me every time, you know I it's better to be clean, thinking about getting clean, than using getting clean.
Yeah,
And um and I would always think about getting clean only when I was clean, and sometimes I would only be 24 hours. But when I was thinking about getting clean when I was using, I would be like, nah, I'm going to go pick up some more because this is just crazy nonsense.
you're listening to the Sober Unicorn. We'll be right back after this short break. This episode is brought to you by Von Shine Creatives at handmadeandgreat.com. Von Shine Creatives is a sober owned business featuring finely crafted goat's milk and vegan soaps. Treat yourself or someone you love today. Take $5 off of $25 on all your purchases site wide, and remember, it's always free shipping. Use the coupon code SOBER, which helps support Von Shine Creatives and the Sober Unicorn podcast all at once. Link and coupon code will be in the bio. Now back to our episode. Yeah, I mean, in our addiction, like it's never enough. I know
Yeah.
when I was using methamphetamine that I would like, oh, let me just go pick up or go smoke with some friends and do some things, adult things, and I would go do those things, and then I would leave their contacts in my plug that was local because
Yes.
even though I was higher than a kite, it just what I had wasn't enough. And then I'd pick up a gram, and the next thing you know, it's like 3 days later, I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing to myself?
Yes. And so I got to that point when I started doing methamphetamines. I would be up for 3, 4 days, and at the time I had my daughter, and she's like, "Why are you up? Why are you up? Why are you up?" Like, and I would never do it around her, but I would be like rushing to get her to school in the morning, like, you got to go. And she's like, "Why are you rushing me to go to school? Like, school's not even for another 30 minutes." And I'm like, "No, we got to go now." Like, because my main priority was at the time, to get high. And unfortunately, I fell around the wrong crowd in San Antonio too. I found this guy that was an alcoholic too, and he went over there and found a bar that opened up at 7 a.m. in Medical Center. And I would meet him there as soon as I would drop off the baby at school, and start drinking and do what I have to do, go to work, start happy hour at 4, and we would close the bar at 2. And then my other friends, we would go to their house, and they had a full bar in their house, and we would just drink.
Yeah, I'm lucky that there's a bar that opened up right across from my job that is open at 7 in the morning, and I got sober, I think like maybe a month right after it opened, and I was like super thankful for that because I could see myself immediately waking up earlier in the morning to go and drink at this bar and then just walk to work across the street and be like, oh no, I'm good, I'm good. So now that you're sober and everything and you've gotten clean, like how was your first like well, of course, like you said, you went to rehab. So, like, getting out of rehab, how did you make sure that you didn't get mixed with the wrong people again?
So to get away from that, to make sure that I stay clean, I changed my people, places, and things. Um, I now live in San Angelo in a sober living, um, and I'll complete that. Well, I'm gonna complete it for the 9 months for the deferred probation, so that I know that I still have accountability. When the 9 months is up, it will actually be in April, so that will be my 1 year celebration of being sober.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so I really had to change my people, places, and things. And even when I went into San Antonio the last time, those old people knew I were in San Antonio, and they tried to get me to go out, and I'm like, I'm not here for that, I'm here to see my family, I'm here to see my kid. I gotta, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
And they're
no,
like, just
100%.
come out and drink, come out and drink. And I'm like, no, no, just come out and dance, like, one drink won't hurt. And I'm like, you say that one drink won't hurt, but one turns into 1,000.
It does. It really does. And I think a lot of people, they don't understand that when an addict is trying to get sober or even years into sobriety, that one drink will kick off a
Yes.
slew of chaos that'll commence. So, of course, you're in San Angelo now, and even though people that are not in recovery think that we are incredibly restricted in recovery, because of course coming sober newly, you want to avoid the bars, you're trying to avoid the friends, develop new friendships, you're trying to avoid kind of the old friends that you used to drink with. And so people from the outside look in and think that we don't have any freedom considering a sober living home or outpatient. And but many of us, for me at least, I it's a newfound freedom. It's yes, I may be restricted. I'm restricting myself on the places that I go, but at the end of the day, like I go so many different places now that I'm sober. I mean, beforehand it was getting off of work, going straight to a bar. Now it's
Yes.
getting off of work, going to friends' houses, going to a museum, going to a concert, going here. It's like yeah, I may have that bar restriction, but I have the freedom to go to so many other places, even considering the money that I'm saving.
Yes. And you'd be surprised how much money you save, like, uh not spending it. Like, you don't realize how much you're spending until you're sober. Like, yeah, you look at your bank account while you were using an active addiction, and you're like, okay, whatever, like, I'll find that money somewhere else, you know what I mean? But when you're actually sober, you actually still see money in your bank account at the end of the month. You're able to take extra trips or do whatever you need to do take someone out to dinner, and
Yeah,
it's totally different. It's compared to, oh no, I only have money for myself,
I've
you
gone to
know.
a sit down restaurant probably more often in my past 9 months than I did in my like 7 year addiction, and
Yeah.
it's insane. On I'm able to go to concerts. I mean, although I want to go to Lizzo, but that bitch is a little too expensive for me. But I've been able to go to concerts. I have a trip booked to Atlanta and Tennessee coming up in October. I have a trip booked to Florida coming up in September, and then I'm possibly going to book a trip to Chicago. I haven't really decided yet, but because monkeypox is crazy. But so, how much more now that you are sober? How much more freedom do you have, and what does that look like to you?
To me, I have a lot of freedom, um, still, and what it looks for me is people look at me different now. People are starting to gain trust back in me. Uh, People actually call and check on me on a daily. Compared to whenever I was in my active addiction, I didn't get that, or they didn't want me around because they knew what I was going to be doing, or they didn't invite me to parties because they know that I would be out drinking everybody or start an argument, and so with that, I see freedom. They're like, oh hey, you're gonna come, to the barbecue or whatever, like, I'm invited to places now. And like you said, it doesn't matter, like, you know you get to see a lot more freedom, and you get to see a lot of things. I've had more fun being sober, like going to the river and hanging out with friends in recovery, than I have had in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
at least now, I mean, I say it almost every other episode where at least now if I go out, yes, I could still stay out until midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, but I can still wake up at 6, 7:30 in the morning and remember the entire night before, not wake up with a
Yeah.
migraine, not wake up looking for the pipe, not wake up looking for the bottle. And I mean, that I think is freedom in itself. The fact that we are able to wake up and just live our life how we want to live it rather than live our life based around a drug or a liquor.
Yes.
So
And it's very true.
yeah, no, 100%. So before we bring this episode to a close, what would you like to share with everybody that you haven't already?
Um, so I just feel like, if you're still struggling with addiction, there's no uh there's no bad part about going back to a recovery center to seek help or outpatient services for recovery. Get with your sponsor, get with somebody in recovery, that you trust, and reach out before you have that relapse. I mean, your clean date, if it's your first clean date, can be your clean date for the rest of your life, you know, but you know, there are things that happen, and there are things that may make you restart your clean date. But that all depends on you as an individual, and how much you want to be sober, and how much you want to prove people wrong, and I know personally that when I thought I was going to have when I was going to have a mentally relapse, I called somebody at 1 o'clock in the morning from my recovery team, and I talked to them, and I was good, instead of trying to go find somewhere to go to get a drink. It does happen. It's your story. But I know with my story, like, I plan to have one clean date. Um, and I plan to share hope, freedom, and strength through my message, where whoever I speak to, whether it's my home group of the 12-step program, and or being at service, to do service work for another addict. Because as an addict, and working a 12-step program, it is our responsibility to help the next addict that's still suffering, or help the addict that's coming into recovery. The newcomer is the most important person that walks to any of those rooms.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think people always look up to those with 30 years. Yes, does it take a lot to get to 30 years? Of course, but you know what? It takes so much more to walk into the room for your first time. And the thing is,
Yes.
it's that gift. Like I always say, like I was so desperate when I finally walked into those rooms because I was in debt 15K on a credit card. I was spending upwards of $18,000 a year drinking. I was ruining vacations. I was ruining, like, I was driving and putting my life, other people's lives at risk. And it was finally, it took a desperate point where I was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I gave up. And that's what finally, like, led me back into those rooms. So, I mean, I thank God that I had that moment of desperation and didn't know what else to do. I had no answers for myself, which I normally have plenty of answers for myself. So when I finally had no more answers is when I finally sought out help.
Yes. And I think that's for a lot of addicts, you know, finally people see like, hey, I'm losing all these people in my life. What do I got to do different? Because I can't live this life without my family. I can't live this life without my kids. Like I got to give something. And you got to give the drugs and alcohol no matter what, because at the end of the day, that's what tears families apart. And with that, you know, today we can no longer use our disease as an excuse to act out. Instead, we must hold fast to our message of recovery and choose to live in the solution and not in our addiction. Because if we're still acting out on old behaviors, it, you've never changed those behaviors.
Yeah, if you don't change, then I mean you're gonna go right back out. I mean, if you don't continuously
Yeah.
grow as an individual, then you're gonna fall back into old habits essentially.
Yes. Like you can't say that you change your behaviors when you're still acting out on behaviors when you were in an addict.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. You can't say you changed if you still being a bitch.
yeah, like it doesn't work that way, you know? And you could put on a front and be like, oh, no, I was just playing. No, you're still acting out on old behaviors.
Exactly,
Like
exactly.
change, change your shit, step it up, and get back in the program, you know? Like I said, not everybody has one clean date. And that's your story to tell. But if you want to stay clean for the right reasons, when you go into recovery, then you will have that strength and hope and freedom for the rest of your life. And you will be able to keep that clean date.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on, Angel. I do appreciate it very much.
Thank you for
Of
allowing
course.
me to be of service and be on your podcast.
Of course. Well, I'm sure we will talk soon.
Yes, but we won't be visiting in the hospital no more.
I don't even remember. You know what's so crazy? I think that's the time that I thought I was having a heart attack because I was like coming down off of like a 5 day run. So
I
I
was in
don't,
there for kidney stones for my
I don't
because I
honestly
drank so
remember.
much alcohol, like, and I was screaming, and I'm like, just give me the fucking pain pills already. Like, I don't have time for this, you know? Like, I need to get back out there. Like, come on.
Exactly. But have a wonderful day. All right.
All right, bye bye.
Bye. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Hit that follow button to be notified about new episodes every week. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at The Sober Unicorn Podcast or on our website at thesoberunicornpodcast.com. There you will find our episodes as well as our very own sober-owned shop featuring products from small businesses that are sober-owned. And remember everyone, don't be normal, be a unicorn, but better yet, be a sober unicorn.